Hey there, fellow Dune enthusiasts. Welcome back to another exciting recap video. Today, we're diving deep into the intricate world of Arrakis, a desert planet, where House Atreides faces betrayal, intrigue, and their first encounter with the enigmatic Fremen. Strap in, because we're about to unravel the plot of this epic tale. The narrative begins on the desert world of Arrakis, where Chani, a Freeman woman, shares a part of her people's past. She describes how the harsh Harkonnens have dominated the planet from before her birth, amassing immense wealth by extracting the psychoactive compound, melange, also known as the spice. Despite the Freemen's efforts, they have been unable to oust the Harkonnens. Yet, a recent decree from Padishah Emperor Shaddam Roman IV has commanded the Harkonnens to vacate Arrakis, leaving Chani curious about the identity of the planet's new leaders. On Caladan, Paul Atreides joins his mother, Lady Jessica, for breakfast. Jessica, who is both Duke Leto's consort and a member of the mystical Bene Gesserit order, has been imparting to Paul the unique abilities of her sect. In one exercise, she challenges him to use these powers to persuade her to hand him a glass of water, a task at which Paul achieves only partial success. During this time, Paul also gains knowledge about Arrakis, the sole source of the mind-enhancing spice that prolongs life and heightens senses. This spice is crucial for space navigation, as it allows navigators to achieve a heightened state of consciousness. Leto Atreides, accompanied by his loyal soldier Gurney Halleck and the Mentat Thufir Hawat, meets with an imperial envoy who officially transfers the stewardship of Arrakis to House Atreides. The Emperor, wary of Leto's increasing influence and esteem within the Landsraad, a council of noble families, has orchestrated this. Leto understands that his new role as the overseer of Arrakis is fraught with danger, yet he cannot decline the Emperor's directive. Meanwhile, Paul, eager to explore Arrakis, requests his friend and esteemed warrior Duncan Idaho to accompany him on an early reconnaissance mission. Duncan, however, turns down the request. Paul shares with Duncan his premonitions about Arrakis and the Fremen, including a foreboding dream where Duncan meets his end in battle. Duncan, not putting much stock in dreams, advises Paul that real significance lies in wakeful experiences, dismissing the dream as inconsequential. Paul expresses his desire to head to Arrakis ahead of schedule to his father Leto, but Leto declines, emphasizing the need for Paul to remain by his side. Leto then elaborates on the intricate political dynamics at play. The Emperor has orchestrated a rivalry between House Atreides and House Harkonnen, intending to weaken both houses to his advantage. Leto's counter-strategy involves forming an alliance with the Fremen, utilizing their formidable desert power to outmaneuver the Emperor. Amidst this, Paul voices concerns about his capacity to succeed Leto as a leader. Leto, in turn, shares his own youthful insecurities and reassures Paul that, just like him, Paul will eventually navigate his path to leadership. During a training session with Paul, Gurney Halleck emphasizes the need for heightened vigilance and ruthlessness, particularly in light of the threat from the Harkonnens. Concurrently, Paul starts experiencing dreams about Chani. In the midst of these developments, Reverend Mother Gaius Helen Mohiam, a high-ranking figure in the Bene Gesserit order and Jessica's superior, arrives on Caladan to assess Paul. Before this crucial meeting, Dr. Wellington Yue examines Paul, cautioning him about the Bene Gesserit's hidden motives. Mohiam subjects Paul to the Gam Jabbar test, a severe trial involving a poisoned needle and a box that induces intense pain, designed to evaluate his character and resolve. Following the test, Mohiam inquires about Paul's prophetic dreams, probing if they ever manifest into reality. After the examination, Mohiam confronts Jessica, criticizing her for bearing a son for Duke Leto instead of adhering to the Bene Gesserit directive to produce daughters. Mohiam accuses Jessica of harboring the belief that her son Paul could be the Kwisatz Haderach, a figure at the center of a long-foretold Bene Gesserit messianic prophecy. Jessica acknowledges her belief in this possibility. However, Mohiam cautions her that Paul's potential and powers are still maturing, and that he could face mortal danger in the impending challenges. After Mohiam's departure, Paul confronts Jessica, seeking clarity on Mohiam's cryptic remarks. Jessica then unveils to Paul the profound secret of the Bene Gesserit. For centuries, they have been meticulously orchestrating a selective breeding program. The ultimate goal of this program is to create a supreme being, a mind with unprecedented capabilities, capable of accessing both the vast stretches of the past and the unseen corridors of the future. Upon their arrival on Arrakis, the Atreides family is greeted with an unfamiliar chant from the local populace. Paul, curious about the phrase, inquires with his mother Jessica, who explains that it is a prophecy about the Lisan al-Gaib, or the voice from the outer world, a messianic figure anticipated on Arrakis. Jessica suggests that the locals might see Paul as this prophesied figure, but Paul dismisses it as mere superstition, likely propagated by the Bene Gesserit. Jessica takes on a Freeman servant named Shadout Mapes, who also perceives Jessica and Paul as embodying the prophecy of the Lisan al-Gaib. Mapes presents Jessica with a unique dagger, crafted from the tooth of a Shai-Hulud, the giant sandworms that make the deserts of Arrakis perilous. That same night, as Paul studies a holographic representation of the Muad'Dib, a desert mouse native to Arrakis, he narrowly escapes an assassination attempt. A hunter-seeker drone, a deadly and stealthy weapon, targets him. The attack is inadvertently thwarted when Mapes enters the room, causing a distraction that allows Paul to evade the drone's lethal intent. Duke Leto Atreides, upon inspecting his new territory on Arrakis, quickly realizes that the Harkonnens have deliberately sabotaged essential infrastructure. To address this, the Atreides plan to seek intervention from the Imperial Arbiter of the Transition, an ecologist named Liat Kynes, who has an extensive history on Arrakis. Duncan Idaho, after spending several weeks with the Freeman, returns with valuable insights. He reports to Duke Leto about the Freeman's exceptional combat skills and their unique way of life in Sitch's hidden communities located in caverns beneath the desert. Duncan's findings corroborate Thufir Hawat's theory that the Freeman population is much larger than previously estimated. During this time, Stilgar, the leader of one of the Freeman Sitches, arrives to meet with Leto. Stilgar makes it clear that he expects the off-worlders to confine their activities to spice mining within the city limits and avoid venturing into the desert. While Leto rejects this restriction, he assures Stilgar that Freeman Sitches will be respected and that Freeman will not be persecuted under Atreides' rule. Paul extends an invitation for Stilgar to stay, but Stilgar chooses to leave. Duncan then introduces the Atreides to several aspects of Fremen technology, notably the moisture-preserving stillsuits designed for survival in the harsh desert environment, and Thumper's devices used to lure the giant sandworms of Arrakis. During a meeting with Liat Kynes to review the spice mining operations on Arrakis, Duke Leto's party encounters a moment of cultural significance. Kynes, impressed by Paul's intuitive proficiency in fitting his stillsuit in the traditional Freeman style, comments in the native language, "He shall know your ways as if born to them." The group then sets out to observe a spice mining operation in progress. At the site, they witness a sandcrawler, a large spice mining vehicle inadvertently attracting a sandworm due to the rhythmic vibrations generated during spice collection. Complications arise when a carry-all, which is supposed to airlift the sandcrawler to safety, fails to function. Leto, prioritizing the safety of the miners, lands his ornithopters near the crawler to facilitate a rescue. Amidst this rescue effort, Paul exits the craft to assist the miners. During this time, he is overwhelmed by a potent concentration of spice, triggering a series of prophetic visions, including one where he sees himself with Chani. As Paul nearly succumbs to the shifting sands, Gurney Halleck intervenes, pulling him to safety in Leto's ornithopter. They witness the awe-inspiring sight of the sandworm consuming the sandcrawler whole. Following this incident, Dr. Wellington Yue examines Paul and informs both him and Jessica that while the spice is psychoactive, it should not pose any harm to Paul. One night, Duke Leto is awakened by a premonition that something is amiss. He attempts to contact security, but his calls go unanswered. His sense of unease intensifies when he discovers Mapes, fatally wounded. In that moment, Leto is incapacitated by a paralytic dart, designed to bypass his body's shield and immobilize him. The betrayal is revealed. Dr. Wellington Yue, a trusted member of the Atreides household, has turned against them. Wellington confesses to disabling the Atreides' defensive shields and sabotaging their communication systems. He explains his treachery by disclosing that the Harkonnens have taken his wife captive, using her as leverage to compel his cooperation. In a final act that mingles betrayal with a glimmer of defiance, Wellington replaces one of Leto's teeth with a poison-filled capsule. This desperate measure provides Leto with an opportunity to assassinate Baron Harkonnen. In the midst of the night, Gurney Halleck is roused to action as the Harkonnen forces, bolstered by the formidable Imperial Sardaukar, launch a sudden and ruthless assault on House Atreides. Gurney, a seasoned warrior and loyal to House Atreides, immediately takes command, organizing a counterattack in an attempt to repel the invaders. Despite Gurney's valiant efforts, the situation rapidly deteriorates for the Atreides forces. They find themselves grievously underprepared and vastly outnumbered, facing not only the treacherous Harkonnen troops, but also the elite Sardaukar, known for their brutal efficiency in combat. The Atreides troops struggle to mount an effective defense and soon find themselves being overwhelmed. In the chaos of battle, Duncan Idaho, a highly skilled swordmaster and loyal to the Atreides, manages to eliminate several Sardaukar soldiers. Determined to safeguard Paul and Jessica, he commandeers an ornithopter and heads to their rescue. However, upon his arrival, Duncan discovers that Paul and Jessica have already been whisked away from the immediate danger, their whereabouts unknown in the tumult of the unfolding conflict. Baron Vladimir Harkonnen, in a bid to maintain a semblance of an agreement with Mohiam and the Bene Gesserit, decides not to directly harm Paul or Jessica. Instead, he opts for a more indirect and cruel method. He orders his men to abandon them in the vast, unforgiving desert of Arrakis, leaving them to perish from exposure. Despite not having full mastery over his Bene Gesserit training, Paul manages to exercise the voice, compelling one of the Harkonnen soldiers to remove Jessica's gag. Once free to speak, Jessica commands one of the captors to turn on and kill his comrade. Upon being completely freed, she takes matters into her own hands and personally eliminates 2 more of their captors. Their escape, however, encounters a setback when their ornithopter is remotely disabled, forcing an emergency landing. From their grounded position, Paul and Jessica witness the widespread destruction of Arrakeen, the capital city of Arrakis, a grim testament to the brutal efficiency of the Harkonnen assault. Dr. Wellington Yueh, having fulfilled his part of the treacherous bargain with Baron Vladimir Harkonnen, confronts the Baron to demand that he uphold his promise, the safe return of Yueh's wife. However, the Baron, true to his duplicitous nature, has no intention of honoring this agreement. In a cold and ruthless act, he ensures Yueh's silence forever by slitting his throat, thus betraying the doctor who had betrayed his own masters. Following this, the Baron takes pleasure in taunting the paralyzed Duke Leto Atreides, savoring his apparent victory. However, Leto, harboring his last act of defiance, bites down on the tooth that Yueh had implanted, which releases a deadly gas, killing everyone in the immediate vicinity. The Baron, however, narrowly escapes death. His quick use of his body shield and anti-gravity suspensors allows him to float up to the ceiling, avoiding the full brunt. Sheltered within a survival tent amidst a raging storm on Arrakis, Paul experiences a series of intense visions, a side effect of his exposure to the spice. Initially, these visions focus on Chani, a figure who has increasingly occupied his thoughts. However, the nature of his visions quickly shifts, revealing a darker and more ominous future. Paul is confronted with images of widespread bloodshed and religious fanaticism. Zealots, bearing the banner of House Atreides and invoking Duke Leto's name, are seen spreading across the galaxy like an unstoppable force, leaving destruction and chaos in their wake. This vision of a future marked by violence and fanaticism under the guise of his family's name deeply disturbs Paul. In his horror and confusion, Paul's initial reaction is to blame his mother, Jessica, and the Bene Gesserit for the potential path his life and legacy could take. The Bene Gesserit's manipulations and their role in shaping his destiny weigh heavily on him, intensifying his turmoil. Despite these overwhelming revelations and the strain they place on their relationship, Jessica ultimately succeeds in comforting her son. In the midst of the storm, both literal and metaphorical, they find a moment of solace and understanding, grappling together with the daunting and uncertain future that Paul's visions have unveiled of the poisonous cloud, though he still suffers grave injuries. In the aftermath, medical technicians are called upon to attend to the Baron, working diligently to nurse him back to health and restore him after the close brush with death instigated by Duke Leto's final, desperate act of resistance. Duncan Idaho manages to locate Paul and Jessica, rescuing them from the dire situation they found themselves in. He leads them to Liat Kynes, who has established a refuge in an abandoned terraforming station, now inhabited by a group of Fremen. However, Sardaukar forces track them down. The Fremen, renowned for their combat prowess, engaged the Sardaukar in a fierce battle. Duncan Idaho, recognizing the dire circumstances, makes the ultimate sacrifice, putting up a final, selfless stand to buy time for Paul, Jessica, and Kynes to escape. His heroic act allows them to flee in an ornithopter, evading the immediate threat. In a desperate attempt to escape the pursuing Sardaukar forces, Kynes sets up a thumper with the intention of summoning a sandworm that she can ride to safety. However, this daring plan takes a tragic turn when Kynes is gravely wounded by the relentless Sardaukar troops. As the Sardaukar close in, ready to deliver a fatal blow, a dramatic twist of fate occurs. A massive sandworm, towering over the desert landscape, arrives on the scene. Kynes, despite her mortal injuries, summons the sandworm's attention by pounding a patch of drum sand. In a breathtaking and unexpected turn of events, the colossal sandworm responds to her call. Kynes, along with those present, is enveloped and swallowed by the immense creature. In the midst of navigating their ornithopter through a fierce desert sandstorm, Paul experiences a profound vision. In this vision, a Fremen man imparts valuable wisdom, emphasizing the importance of survival in the desert as a continuous process. He advises Paul to move in harmony with the natural flow of the desert environment. Inspired by this guidance, Paul retracts the wings of the ornithopter, allowing the powerful vortex of the sandstorm to carry them deeper into the desert. This daring maneuver ultimately leads to their survival, as they are transported safely through the storm's tumultuous currents. However, the price of their survival is evident as their ornithopter sustains damage during the tumultuous journey. With their mode of transportation compromised, Paul and Jessica must now venture forth on foot through the unforgiving desert. Unbeknownst to them, their actions have not gone unnoticed, as watchful Fremen observe their movements from a distance. Jessica and Paul cautiously navigate their way toward the location they believe to be the Fremen sitch. However, their presence in the desert inadvertently draws the attention of a massive sandworm. In a frantic bid to evade the approaching sandworm, they scramble for cover among some nearby rocks. The sandworm momentarily pauses, and it appears as though its gaze lingers on Paul for a brief moment. Their relief is short-lived, as the sound of a thumper diverts the creature's attention, and it moves away from their location. Soon after, a group of Fremen arrives on the scene and captures Jessica and Paul. Among the Fremen is Stilgar, who recognizes Paul and asserts that they cannot harm him. However, not all within the group share Stilgar's belief. Jommies, another Freeman, dismisses Stilgar's convictions and advocates for the killing of Paul and Jessica, with the intention of looting their possessions. Paul, in a moment of realization, identifies Jommies as the man from his previous visions, setting the stage for a tense and uncertain encounter with the Fremen. Facing a critical decision, Jessica seeks assistance from the Fremen, appealing to their desire for rewards in exchange for help in returning to Caladan. However, Stilgar suggests that Paul, being young, may be allowed to join their sitch and deems Jessica, whom he considers too old to learn their combat skills, as unsuitable for their way of life, implying that she must be left behind. In a remarkable display of their Bene Gesserit training and capabilities, Jessica and Paul disarm the majority of the Fremen and hold Stilgar at knife point. Recognizing Jessica's true identity, Stilgar relents from his previous stance and decides to take both Jessica and Paul with them to the sitch. However, not all of the Fremen agree with this decision. Jommies objects and challenges Jessica to a duel. In a moment of dire circumstance, Paul makes a fateful decision. He agrees to stand as his mother's champion in the duel against Jommies. Among those present is Chani, who empathizes with Paul and believes that he is facing certain death at Jommy's hands. In an act of compassion, she offers Paul her crysknife, an element from one of Paul's previous visions. The duel unfolds, and it becomes evident that Paul is the superior combatant. He repeatedly holds his knife to Jommy's throat, demanding that he yield and spare his own life. However, Stilgar, adhering to Fremen customs, explains that their duels are to the death, a revelation that carries significant weight. Jessica, aware of Paul's reluctance and the fact that he has never taken a life before, voices her concern. With great reluctance and a heavy heart, Paul is compelled to deliver a fatal blow, ending Jommy's life to fulfill the demands of the Fremen tradition. The Fremen, satisfied with the outcome of the duel, accept Paul and Jessica into their midst, marking a pivotal and profound moment in their journey among the desert-dwelling people of Arrakis. As Paul and Jessica embark on their journey into the desert alongside the Fremen, they witness an astounding sight that defies belief. They observe a Freeman individual riding a live sandworm. Amidst this awe-inspiring moment, Chani shares a cryptic message with Paul. She tells him, "This is only the beginning." Her words carry a sense of mystery and anticipation, suggesting that their journey in the desert and their interactions with the Freeman are just the initial steps into a much larger and more significant adventure. And there you have it, a detailed recap of the unfolding epic in the world of Dune. Betrayal, prophecy, and survival in the harsh desert await our heroes as they navigate the treacherous sands of Arrakis. If you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more Dune updates and deep dives. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next video.